energy forces out. This is from the FCC. It's a website if you guys want to take a look at it.
And they're not a health and safety agency.
They're not, but they make the regulations based on what scientists study. So, again, please don't destroy me on this. I'm getting this information from sources that
I
I
just want to make sure everyone knows that.
understood.
In fact, they haven't reviewed this for 20 years, and they were developed 30 years ago, these quote-unquote safety limits, which were based on heating only.
Okay.
Just saying. Sorry.
You want that? Are cell towers located in your homes or schools safe for residents and students? Radio frequency emissions from antennas used for cellular and PCS transmissions result in exposure levels on the ground that are typically thousands of times below safety limits. These safety limits were adopted by the FCC based on the recommendation of expert organizations and endorsed by agencies of the federal government responsible for health and safety. Therefore, there is no reason to believe that such towers could constitute a potential health hazard to nearby residents or students.
Could you repeat what you said so everybody could hear you?
These were developed 30 years ago, the standards we have in this country. They were last looked at 20 years ago, and what I think is important for everyone to know is that right now, since 2013, the government is under review of these standards, and they ask if children are more vulnerable because there is, of course, a significant amount of research questioning the safety at non-thermal levels, meaning they don't cook you levels, they might do other things because it is energized radiation. But so that's what I was saying. That is important that people know that the FCC asked the scientists to put in submissions, and they are 900 submissions in the docket now about this issue. Now, the GAO, the Government Accountability Office, said these FCC levels do not reflect the latest research in their 2012 report. So when we talk about these standards and say it will be much lower, hundreds of thousand times lower have shown effects in studies, but that's not reflected in these levels because they are antiquated.
Like I said, I could just go off what's there.
And I wanna make sure
just like the
everyone
ordinance,
knows
I know
that,
maybe
you
people
gotta
have
know
problems with
that
an ordinance or people have, I
Right,
get it,
you know,
I get
We've
it.
never been up to date on any
And I
regulations.
honestly,
But we just want to make clear that it's not safe, so.
I didn't want to make that clear. That's not what I'm saying.
No, we want to make it clear that we understand.
Wait,
that
stop.
the,
Everyone stop. I'm taking my information from the FCC, from the American Cancer Society, the slides from Waterford Consultants, which is, they're experts. They actually teach us RF safety methods because we're around antennas on rooftops and things like that. I'm just going with what I have, guys.
Yeah, and we're just sharing
But we're sharing with what
No, it's
we
fine,
have.
and I don't know where the information comes from. I'm just going off.
No, right.
Okay.
So, just so everybody understands how this is supposed to work, and what the way this should have worked in November, but did not. Verizon contacts MCPS. They want to put towers at schools. They're supposed to come to the community and ask, what is our position? And I've spoken and was on the phone with Mr. Boyd Lawrence for over an hour discussing how this process works. If at the school level, the school doesn't agree and doesn't support, then it ends there. Isn't that what you told me, Mr. Lawrence?
No,
Mr. Lawrence?
That's correct, based on what I was told.
Isn't that,
No,
isn't that what you told
We
me?
get input, but the way the policy is written by the school board, the superintendent ultimately decides based on the input that we
But-
gather.
You told me when we spoke in December that to the extent that the school doesn't agree and the school, the community doesn't support it, you don't push it, it stops there.
Well, we pass on the information.
Is that what you told me?
We pass on the feedback that we get.
It's a yes or no. Is that what you told me or not when we spoke in
Not
December?
quite like that. We take the
You didn't tell me
information
that?
and we pass it on because it's
Okay.
not for us really to decide.
Okay.
You know,
Who is it for decide? 'Cause
Sean,
quite
that's what
frankly,
I was
that's who we
told
need to
at
talk
the
to.
school board
I
policy
attended.
says the
It
superintendent
is
makes
what
the decision.
I was told, and so what I requested, because I am on the board, and there was not, we did not request or invite Verizon to come in or MCPS. The MCPS real estate office, Mr. Lawrence, contacted our principal, Ms. Yang, and said, we want to come into your PTSA meeting. They weren't invited. We were told to put them on the agenda. Our president wasn't present at that meeting, our vice president was. So we as a board have executive board meetings, and if anyone's familiar with the way Robert's Rules of Procedure work and parliamentary procedure, anyone that's going to speak at a meeting has to be approved by the board. we didn't approve it, we didn't know they were coming. I actually came to that meeting late. And Mr. Boyd and Verizon was here doing a presentation. And there were maybe 9, 10, I think we had 15 people in the room. And so it was, we're telling you what we'd like to do. You know, it wasn't really explaining what the process was, not as detailed as this. And then it was, so who thinks it's a good idea? And some people raised their hand and other people didn't. In fact, I believe, Anna, you and your husband were here that night and you guys didn't vote because you said it wasn't enough information. So after that meeting, Darlene, raise your hand, who's also on our PTSA board, was smart enough and savvy enough to read the minutes and said, what is going on here? Tower, Verizon, what? So she started asking questions. So she started asking questions to Ms. Yang. Ms. Yang passed her off to Mr. Boyd, to Mr. Lawrence. And so we got some documents and we started reading, and we as a board convened and said, well, this is a problem for several reasons. First of all, we don't believe that this is really in the best interest of our kids. Moreover, we have an issue with how this was done. We weren't giving any notice. When I spoke to Mr. Boyd in December, he said to me, well, we came. You guys said you wanted to do it. We're moving on. And I said, oh, no, you're not moving on. And so I contacted the principal and the superintendent's office and said, this isn't working. And our PTSA president contacted other schools, the community, the neighborhood associations here in the area.
Honest, I didn't know anything
None of us
about
knew,
that.
and we're on the board. That's my
And
point.
listen to me, somebody came nicely and gave a flyer to all the parents.
That was us. We were doing that,
It's
handing it out.
wonderful,
So
but
what we said
we don't know
to the
anything.
principal is there has to be another meeting. We have to
Okay.
give due notice to the school community. So she sent out a letter a
Yep.
few weeks ago and said, come.
I will help
And
with the
then-
Spanish community,
Thank you.
okay?
And then she did a Connect Ed, which you guys should have gotten. And then you saw us PTSA parents out
We
there
have
in
so
30
many
degrees
parents
handing out
Spanish.
flyers. We
How
knocked
many
on
are here?
neighbors'
Just
doors
me and
to get everyone here. Because our
I need to
position
find out
is,
what's going on.
this is the community meeting. And so what we need to make sure that happens in this room tonight is that MCPS Real Estate and Verizon understands what our position is. Okay, so what we don't want to do is to keep going back and forth with him, because to the extent that we know what our position is, that's what we need to be communicating. We don't want time to run out with this long presentation and then they feel that we've told you what we're doing and that's the way it's being presented, that this is what we're doing. And I'm telling you that it starts and ends here, and that needs to be our position. Either we support it or we oppose it. And we need to have a hand count, and no one in this room needs to leave until your name is on a piece of paper either supporting or opposing this. Because we're fighting this to the extent that they continue. My kids are 8th graders. I'm going to be in another high school, but I'm not going to leave this issue. Okay, I'll be back, and I'll tell you why. Because Mr. Lawrence has overseen and is working to ensure that these towers are put predominantly on the east side of the county, not the west side of the county. Darlene was very smart to ask, where are these at? What schools? What schools have said no? You know the schools they're saying no? The schools in Potomac. Wooten said no. Wooten had a very big meeting and said no. And you know what they did? They walked away because they didn't want to fight the parents. And so we got very angry because we're in a form school, predominantly African American, predominantly Latino, and they want to put this tower here. They came here without giving us any notice in November because they didn't think we cared. They didn't think you would show up. They didn't think you would advocate. So I'm telling you that we have to stand up and tell them no.
My name is Jamison Adcock, and I'm the president of the Aspen Hill Civic Association. We were not notified, and I understand the policies. They have guidelines that say exactly how things are supposed to work at MCPS. There are process maps, and one of the things that's spelled out very clearly is that the civic association in a given area and all the neighborhood communities, neighborhood organizations are to be notified. We were not notified. I found out about this because the PTSA reached out to me, and I was kind of upset to find out that there was a process that was not being followed. To be clear, the Civic Association has not voted yet. We're going to have a board meeting and we're going to be discussing this. I think there's a great deal of skepticism from my discussions with the other board members. What I'm hearing tonight, though, I personally oppose this because I think that this community has been steamrolled. It has been somewhat underhanded, and so agree with everything you said. I don't think that this has gone the way it's supposed to go.
So I see Mr. Lawrence is preparing to leave. So we can do a vote now so that he can see the vote before he leaves.
Oh, no, and we have this, and the reason it's being documented with video, and we're asking people to stand up, is because we want everyone here, so there can't be any miscommunication about what was the position of the parties in the room, how many people were here, and what was said.
I mean, I do.
If you wanna go back to the school board slides.
Stand up,
Do you want to?
Please vote.
I just want
Just let
to
'em
clarify one thing about this, our name. We were at the PTSA meeting.
Oh,
We didn't.
I'm not an
we
authority to
purposely
accept the vote,
abstained
so.
Because we didn't have enough information, that's correct, but I also raised at the meeting, and these two gentlemen were there, that it wasn't a proper procedure in terms of the PTSA meeting, in my view, even though I'm not a part of the board, because non-members were voting, which is not appropriate because the body is the PTSA. You can't have non-members voting. The reason why I knew that is because people signed up after the vote because they weren't members, and there wasn't a quorum of that body. So no matter what, if the process should have stopped there,
So,
then you didn't have a proper procedure in the first place. Forget whether the president was there or not. You can't do that. So I don't know, if everybody remembers, I said, and I said it to Chandra, you're talking now, I said it then. I said, why is this proper in front of everyone? So if that's where it should have stopped, it should stop because the process was wrong, you gotta start all over.
that's right. And so our PTSA dues, our membership chairs, how much is it to vote, to become a member? $17. Anybody got
People signed up
$17 that
afterwards.
hasn't paid? Because we want your vote, and we want you, if you're not a member of the PTSA, to be a member tonight and to vote.
Right, and they signed up after. So how were their votes accepted before?
The vote should not have been accepted. I communicated that to Mr. Lawrence. I told him that. I told him it was an improper vote. He can explain what his response was.
Yeah.
You want
So
you
if I
want
could
to
just,
respond?
I don't know if you were here with the policy explanation in the beginning. We're here to gain input. The decision ultimately goes to the superintendent. based on school board
So let's
policy.
take a
so
vote.
let me
Let's
just say
do a
one
show
thing.
of hands.
Please take back to the superintendent that if you proceed with this, I will file a class action lawsuit to prevent all of these in every school in this county. So that is your choice. But let me make it very clear. In 2012, Dr. Wee said that these should not be anywhere near an elementary school. Yet, we are less than a quarter of a mile from an elementary school for this particular one. We have got them at Wheaton and almost every other high school in the area.
But it's down county though.
And,
Be clear, it's down
and that puts our children sitting in classrooms that are under these radiation rays, which quite frankly still have not been completely vetted and are going by policy 20 years ago, for 7 years. We do not understand the impact of those, and as a community member, homeowner, and a member of this community for 25 years, I do not accept that. And if you choose to proceed, you will be personally named in my lawsuit, and the county will be named in a class action lawsuit. So proceed as you may.
Mr. Lawrence, I asked you in December, and I know Darlene Smith asked you as well, what are the list of the schools that have opposed these towers? And you said you didn't have that information.
I can
So
tell
we're
you what
now,
they
so we're now here in
Yeah, I
February.
knew
Do
of
you
one.
have that information?
First off, I've only been around a little over a year, okay?
I asked you this
This
in
is one
December, when
component
you
of
were
the job
coming
we
in
do in our
February.
office. And we don't site select these based on income areas. I think the cell phone use goes across all income and racial boundaries.
Just a point of information, there's no cell towers at a Bethesda school, at a Chevy Chase school, at a Potomac school, at a North Potomac school, none of those have
The only one I know
a
is-
tower.
I know there's one at Sherwood High School, for example.
Sherwood is in Olney. She said Chevy Chase, Bethesda, Potomac, North Potomac. Do you have a cell tower in any school in those
At this time,
areas?
no.
No.
So there's not one at Walt
There's
Whitman?
probably some
So
nearby.
there's not one at Walt Whitman?
No.
There's not one at Churchill? There's not one at BCC?
We only have 12, and there's
No,
202
it's
schools.
a yes or no. Is there one at BCC?
Here. The sites
No,
where we have
this is
them.
better for video. This is one that you see.
I have a map over there of the towers.
Okay, what are the other schools? Churchill, Wooten, Walter Johnson. Do you have one at Walter Johnson?
We have 12 sites.
Rockville,
Walter
no.
Johnson
No.
isn't on your list. What's the other one?
Richard Montgomery,
Richard Montgomery.
Other schools, districts have
It's
more.
not on your list.
Wait, excuse me a second. And I don't want to be on videotape.
Yeah, and I didn't either.
I don't have Facebook, Twitter. I don't have that stuff. So I don't do that stuff. So don't videotape me. There's a couple of things at hand here. One, did you finish your presentation? Did you? No,
I
did-
finished.
you-
Yeah, I'm not gonna continue.
I
It's,
got you.
you know what I'm
Two-
saying?
Okay, two, there's no sense
No
in
one's
arguing with him and with him because they're not decision makers. And not that you're not important,
I appreciate that.
but they're just.
You're actually misunderstanding.
No, I'm
They
not- I
are
understand.
decision,
No,
they
I-
are decision
No, I
makers, and
understand
Mr. Lawrence
perfectly.
is
I
changing his
understand. I wouldn't
position.
speak
It
up.
starts
I
and
wouldn't speak
ended
up
the
if I didn't
school.
understand. I understand perfectly. They're not,
change the policy.
he's not the decision maker. He's not the ultimate authority.
Don't hurt me.
And so what you have to arrive at is the conclusion, right? Is the conclusion that you don't want it? If the conclusion is that you don't want it, then everybody needs to go back to their respective bodies, take a vote, and send a collective letter. It makes no sense to say they all go back and forth of what happened.
I passed
what-
Well, we do need to take a vote tonight, because
Okay,
this is the
I'm just
community
saying- okay, that's what I'm
meeting.
saying. Take a vote
So we
with your
do need to
respective
take a
bodies.
vote.
If his civic association has enough people here to make, or
Is everybody
or if he has
ready to take
wait.
the vote? So, all
Because
those
we
that are,
can't, no, because what are we voting? He's not in the
well, then,
PTA.
if you don't understand the question, don't vote. Here's
No,
the
I
question
don't know.
I'm
It's not that I
posing.
understand. The question is who's voting? The PTA?
The
The civic
PTA
association?
can't vote because everyone in the room isn't a member. This
That's
is a
what I'm saying. So what are we
community,
doing?
it's a community vote.
Look, he's
But I don't
not-
live here.
He's actually asking about.
But you have-
Excuse me, you made the same
have a
mistake.
chat here.
You were there at the meeting. You made the same mistake the last time. So I suggest that you listen.
No, I
Because
got
yeah,
it.
Yes, you did. You do need to know who's voting to represent it. That's a valid
Well, we can
question.
do two votes.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
we don't need to do two votes. We can do one vote. Since your child attends a school here, you are part of the
Everybody's child
community.
doesn't. Everybody's
No,
child
she's
doesn't
saying a
attend
different
school.
Well,
question.
no,
She's
I'm saying that he represents the civic association.
Right.
You said it.
No,
They
I'm a
don't
member of the
listen. They
PTA.
don't
No,
listen.
I got
We can't
it,
make
Anna.
up. We can't make up all of a sudden. We hate the Parkland. We hate the Parkland Cell Tower Association because that doesn't exist.
Okay, so let's
So
just
what we
write
need to
down our
come to.
names
So
and
if
who
we
it
do,
is.
if what you need to do, and I'm gonna say it one
Write down
time,
the names and who it is.
you go to your respective groups, get your respective letter, and submit one collective letter. His civic association may be against it. I don't know. I don't know if they have enough people to vote. Clearly, the PTA is against it. The PTA is against it. So we can't take a vote because we got 50 people in the room that are unrelated.
You
That
can
just
take-
happen to
you
don't
can
like the
take-
tower.
This is a room of interested shareholders.
Exactly.
People
Of
who are
stakeholders.
interested
We're taking a
showed up
you
at
can
this
take a
meeting.
stakeholders vote and you can take a
Just
PTSA
take a show
vote.
of hands.
Hey,
If you
there's
do a
another vote
PTSA
that's
vote,
coming
you
that
need
you
to
can
know.
all participate in for sure. I'm an election judge in Montgomery County. We've got a primary coming up. You will have an opportunity to vote for candidates for school board, no matter what party you are in this primary. For those who are interested in school board issues, the 29th of February, the League of Women Voters is holding a forum for the candidates to the school board. The school board is the one that ultimately tells him what he has to do or not do. Is that right, Boyd? The school board of Montgomery County is the one that has the ultimate decision.
They make the policy, yeah, the superintendent.
Okay, if you want to affect it at that level, that's coming, and you can, everyone has the entitlement to vote.
Where and when? Where and when?
Okay, I know the League of Women Voters is doing it the 29th of February. I don't recall where at the moment.
I can tell you,
But sir, this man
the
here,
Carver
isn't,
Center at,
His name is Boyd Lawrence. And I have his contact information if anyone needs it after the meeting.
the Carver
So-
Center at 7 p.m.
This meeting,
The
the
Carver
principal
Center?
invites
Okay,
everyone
so it's
here.
Carver Center,
And
7
so this
PM
is a
on February
stakeholders
29th.
meeting. So our president is gonna take a vote of the stakeholders. At the next PTSA meeting, which is March 3rd,
Second Tuesday in
March, the second Tuesday in March, we will do a PTSA vote. But tonight, because everyone was invited, we're gonna do a stakeholders vote. Okay?
I have a form here. You could please fill out your name, your address, email information, and sign where you want to indicate whether you're supportive or against.
Is this only
No,
for
we're doing-
people who have
we're-
children in the school?
No,
No.
it's a community, it's stakeholders,
Everybody.
but we're gonna do a hand vote. So we need to, do you want me to call the vote?
I would rather do it.
I agree, but I wanna do a hand vote.
What if do a hand vote and sign
We're
it
gonna do both.
If nothing
So I'm
else, that
gonna-
takes the temperature of the room, and I
Right.
think that's important to do.
Yeah, so we wanna do a hand vote. So all those in favor of a cell tower being installed here by Verizon or any other carrier at Parkland Magnet Middle School, please raise your hand. I think that's the
a little
only one
levity.
that works for Verizon. All those opposed to a cell tower being installed here at Parkland Magnet Middle School, please raise your hand. Okay, I'm counting, and when I point to you, count off so we know who's in the room.
1,
Say the number, 2,
3, 4,
5,
6,
7,
8,
10.
11, 13,
14.
22,
24,
25. 26.
27, 28,
29,
31,
32.
33?
34.
She's
35.
34. Okay,
34,
35.
36,
37,
38,
39.
40,
wait, where'd you go? Go here.
41.
42, 43,
44,
45,
46, 47,
48.
49. 50.
51. Okay, so we have 51. Was there anyone that abstained that's in the room? Did anyone abstain? So we had 1, 2, 3 abstentions. Okay, so that was 51 opposed, 3 abstentions. Rita, did you write that down? 51 opposed, 3 abstentions. She's our secretary. That's all I want you to record, was what the vote was. 51 opposed, 3 abstentions. Were there any other questions? Mr. Lawrence is still in the room and Verizon's still here. Did you pass out the
No,
literature?
I was gonna, if you wanted literature, I was gonna give you my card email, but it doesn't seem like that's really necessary. I can, if you guys want my card, I'd be happy to send you what you need to know, but.
Has there been a comprehensive safety study done? I'm gonna talk technical. Has there been a safety study that's done and available that we can review? That talks about the installation, the batteries, the fuel, and all that stuff?
Not that I know if offhand, but I can find out for you.
OSHA,
Can you email me?
Okay, have a good night.
Okay.
Okay, if you're leaving, please don't leave the room without seeing Amelia. Amelia, raise your hand. Or Darlene. Darlene, raise your
have
hand.
more than one
Both of you
sign-up
should be
sheet, I
having people
think.
sign off.
You should have 4 or
Please don't
5
leave.
so people don't have to wait.
Well, I'm sorry that maybe they didn't early, because I had questions that should have been addressed.
I guess maybe